Now, if you're ready to, okay, I just got the recording message, so I think we're good to go. Morning, everyone. Thank you for Zooming in today. This is, I promise, the second to last time I will ask everybody to please type their location next to their name so we can see where you all are calling in from. We have only one ACT meeting left after today. Next Monday, the 25th, will be our final ACT for this season. We hope you've been enjoying the sessions as much as we, the democracy team, have enjoyed hosting them. Next week, our final topic is going to be election security. And our speaker is going to be Garth Fell, Snohomish County Auditor. So we hope you'll be back next week. Our speaker this morning is Chelsey Cartwright. Chelsey serves as the program manager for the Democracy Truth Project at the League of Women Voters US. In her body of work, she strives to counter dis and misinformation and to advance a better public understanding of the democratic and electoral process. Chelsey works with the Leagues nationwide to develop and implement trainings and events that advance this mission. She's going to provide us with an overview of the mis and dis and malinformation training that is used in her work. I know Chelsey's going to need to jump off our call at 10:35, but we will keep the Zoom session going up to 11 if we have a discussion going. And also the democracy team will be happy to pass along any questions to Chelsey that might come up after she jumps off the call. And Chelsey, we appreciate you accommodating our time difference this morning. We know you're located in Washington, D.C. Welcome. I'm going to pass the mic to you now.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for the kind introduction. And Carol, thank you so much for having me. It's really great to be in community here with you all this morning. Thank you. I'm joining from the other DC. I'd much rather be enjoying some of the West Coast, Washington State good vibes. I've got a couple of national parks on my bucket list to get out to Washington State. So, but I really thank you all for what you all are doing in terms of the ACTZoom community and being present and wanting to learn more a little bit about mis and disinformation. I'm going to now share my screen, but before I do that, I just want to give a short overview of the Democracy Truth Project. I've been at the League for, it'll be a year in May now, coming up in May, and the Democracy Truth Project falls under our Woman-Powered Democracy body of work. And so this project namely works to combat mis, dis, and malinformation, but also works to renew trust back in our democracy. We know that this election cycle will be a big one when it comes to just institutions and how we can build more trust and accountability in our democracy. So a lot of the body of work is part of that framework, and that comes with connections with civic engagement, working to better understand AI, working to better understand how we can work with our democracy partners in community to be able to move the body of work forward. So it's been a real delight to get more accustomed to the work and do more of a deep dive when it comes to mis, dis, and malinformation. I want to also share in the chat a recent blog post that I published about fact checking, and just knowing how important it is to fact check and know your news, being mindful about social media and things of that nature. It makes a big difference. And I'd be happy to share many of the different tools and resources that we're putting together that are part of the Democracy Truth Project. We're working on expanding our election observation programming, which is going to be vital moving into the general election space, and we're looking to expand our Observer Corps body of work as well. So looking forward to keeping everybody posted on that work as it moves. And now I'll just give a little slice of the Miss Dis Mal information training that I give to leagues. And also, I'll be giving some of this training as part of the Power of the South convenings that we're putting together. My colleague on our organizing team, Demetrius Fisher, has been across 12 states in the South, making sure that the South has the tools and resources when it comes to GOTV, Miss and Dis, and certainly different field activations to be able to get the work done. So I'll be in Arkansas on Saturday giving this training as well. So thank you all for having me as I launch this as we get ready for Power of the South. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Can everyone see the first slide here?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Thumbs up.
So just generally to give us a little bit of a primer on how we think about mis and dis and malinformation. What sustains our democracy? These two quotes from FDR and the late Senator John McCain really embody how we want to think about this body of work. Democracy can't succeed unless those who express their choice are prepared to choose wisely. The real safeguard of democracy, therefore, is education. And a lot of the, Democracy Truth Project is about that civic engagement, but it's also about civic optimism and civic education. So how can we inspire our fellow league members to be part of a body of work that is anchored by education? And then the late Senator John McCain saying civic participation over a lifetime, working in neighborhoods and communities in service of all mankind, of all kinds, military and civilian, full-time and part-time, national and international, will strengthen America's civic purpose. So again, tapping into that civic optimism, understanding that everyone has a role to play, and we should be intentional and purposeful about how we can meet people where they are in community. So now I'd just like to take a quick poll, and if you would just indulge me and unmute yourself, as I just want to get your perspective here. What concern motivates you most to help your community address mis, dis, and malinformation? Is it that people won't vote? Is it the outcome of the election will be compromised? Is it people won't trust the outcome of the election or election certification process? Is it there could be political violence, or is there something else? If anyone wants to share their thoughts quickly, I'd love to hear from you.
Carol, I see your hand raised, but I think you're on mute. Okay.
Is there a choice called all of the above, Chelsey?
Yes, I would think all of the above is really where we have to be. I think it's a both and situation for sure.
Yeah, and I see Marilyn's hand up. You're on mute, Marilyn. There you go.
Thank you, Chelsey. I'm really concerned about people believing all the stuff they see on the internet and believing things that are such, to me, obvious falsehoods, but they seem to swallow it whole. Can you speak to that at all?
Oh, absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as we get further into the training. And certainly the breadth and the scope of social media, how fast information moves, and how sometimes there's not really a viable accountability tracker on those platforms. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we
Nancy.
move on.
Oh, sorry, Chelsey.
Oh,
sorry,
go ahead.
I jumped too fast. I see Nancy's hand up. That's.
I just wanted to say I agree with all of the above, but also the comments made over the weekend about the outcome after the election is certainly concerning to me. And I think we all need to be concerned about that. Those were horrible comments made this weekend by one of the candidates. Thank you.
Absolutely, Nancy. I couldn't agree more. And just so you all know, in tandem with what's going on in terms of, the general election and moving towards, I do have a piece of really exciting news coming out of New Hampshire. The league in New Hampshire just actually sued the folks behind that AI generated robocall that was really, really very pervasive and destructive when it came to the primary election in New Hampshire. So as you know, the league is busy at work, hard at work, but I thought that was a great real-time moment to share here because it's relevant to our training here.
Yes.
So any other thoughts before we move ahead? All right. So understanding the landscape, as we mentioned earlier, there's so much dis and malinformation that's spreading on social media, and it's spreading quickly. It drives these cycles of fear and reactionary, like high emotion situations. But really what I want to capture here is there's no real silver bullet on how to address all of the different forms and scopes of mis and dis and malinformation. But just to be knowledgeable and to be aware that they're out there across platforms is very helpful. So now I want to go into a little bit more about what is mis, dis, and mal information. So misinformation is defined as false or inaccurate information. That's a large body of information that's out there already. But disinformation, I would say, is a little bit more nefarious. It's intended to mislead. It's malicious intended. We know that mis and disinformation are both harmful, but disinformation can be targeted towards certain communities, certain identities of people, and then malinformation is based on fact, but completely taken out of context. So this is intended to manipulate, harm, or mislead. All of this is very pervasive. Disinformation, it aims to disrupt and amplify mistrust. It's often very hyper exaggerated and misleading, and it's layered with distortion. So it's intended to, sow this doubt and confusion. And it presents a significant threat to all of us as we are, gearing up for the 2024 general election, because more now than ever, people are spending so much time online, and so much of this is generated from online content. And I read an article, this is actually, I like reading articles like this because it's actually very, it's very timely and relevant, but also kind of shocking. There was a article from Axios. I'll try and find it and put it in the chat. 90% of content by 2030 online will be generated by AI. So just keep that in mind. That's kind of the world we're living in. So just getting a better sense of how best to navigate that space. So now we'll talk about a little bit about some tactics of how to address this problematic content. Missing context, that's a big one when it comes to mis and disinformation, whether that's missing images or statistics, anything that's just lacking those important concrete details in order to, decipher if something is fact-based or credible. The next one, faulty logic, logical fallacies like false equivalence or a straw man argument. These kind of jump to conclusions and they don't have a clear sense of how one thing led to another. Hate and dog whistles, those are pretty self-explanatory. Themes that divide based on identity, that are hate-based. And then conspiracies, blaming or the boogeyman for things that are hard to understand, or, kind of trying to decipher how something easy can be explained to make something difficult more easy to understand, using an easy solution to kind of understand a bigger problem. And then finally, something old, something that was once relevant may not be relevant today. So understanding the dates and context around news-based information. And finally, it doesn't have to be false. It does not have to be false to be a problem. So these half-truths are also really important to be aware of when thinking about mis and dis and malinformation. So an example of the missing context argument here, when these images or quotes or statistics are shared, but they don't have that context to bind things together, the significance can be manipulated. So this was pulled from Twitter, this image to the right that says illegal aliens are far more likely to commit federal crimes based on statistics. They are 7% of the population, yet they commit the following crimes. Well, what is this based on? What are those statistics? Start asking those really pivotal questions. We don't have enough context to be able to draw any type of conclusion because it just is a blanket statement based on statistics. And 7% of the population of what year, of what, of what are we casting this upon to be able to make a full scope decision to see this is missing context, and it's misinformation because it just draws to conclusions without having that context there. Faulty logic. So these are like illogical fallacies that come with false equivalents. So because this, that must mean that, but it might be a faulty logic statement. A red herring, that's like one statement that must be true because other things are also true. And a straw man, the straw man faulty logic, which means that, is this just one instance out of a larger body of other instances? And the slippery slope, of course, this must be the snowball effect, and things of that nature. Are things going down this slippery slope to make things more, the logic less fact-based? And the appeal to authority, how can I appeal to a higher authority to make it seem that I'm right versus what might not be right? So this faulty logic, you want me to take that vaccine, mail it to me, and I'll vaccinate myself and mail it back. You trust me, right? Just like mail-in voting. So that false equivalency of a vaccine being the same as mail-in voting, that's faulty logic. Those are two different things. That's apples to oranges. You can't compare those two things. And so that is the faulty logic in this framework. So old and out of date. Content is hard to recognize on social media. If you've noticed, many articles are shared and you might not immediately see when the date they were written or the date that they were posted by their online news source. So, taking into account the context of when things are written and how things are then reshared. This image to the right says, amazing but not shocking at all anymore. Nearly 200,000 Florida voters may not be citizens. And this was actually taken from an article in 2012, but then reshared as part of a social media post all the way in 2018. So 6 years later, completely taken out of context. And it's just important to know that, you have those dates in mind when resharing information on social. So why is mis, dis, and mal spread? through political, ideological, or financial motivators, there's always the undercarriage of what is the what is motivating these bad actors? Is it a financial motivation? Is it political or ideological? Are these folks just trolls? Are they doing it for amusement, revenge, or extortion? Are there some other, issues that are that come into place that speak to nefarious behavior? How can these bad actors hope to benefit from poorly informed populations? So they might want to be creating what we call echo chambers, to be able to create these echo chambers online of groups on Facebook, or threads on Twitter or X, where folks can have this bad information and then continue to spread it. I do want to share quickly, as part of the Democracy Truth Project, we're working on an AI pilot in Arizona and in Pennsylvania that can target bad actors who are known to be spreading falsehoods from anywhere from election integrity to voting machines to mail-in voting. They're spreading this bad information. It has not been verified. It has not been accurate. And so we're targeting them through AI to be able to aggregate their data in terms of then equipping messaging that will be targeted to those specific issues that can speak to combating that misinformation. So we're not going to be sharing or resharing or even calling them out on the misinformation. We're going to be, with targeted messaging from our comms department, being able to push back and actually give the fact-based and truth-centered part of this miss and dis. So that's really exciting. We're in a pilot phase of that program, partnering with the Civic Listening Corps and the Algorithmic Transparency Institute to be able to do that work. So more to come on that end. So why do people believe this dis and misinformation? It plays upon emotional and cognitive manipulation. It plays on people's emotions. It gets people fired up. Sometimes it's a way to calm fears and anxiety and anger, because it's often based in this kernel of truth. So, which makes it believable. It's kind of like the hook that gets people in to say, oh, that's believable. Maybe I have something in my day-to-day life or my values or the way I go about my ideological beliefs will use confirmation bias for folks to process that information. So looking for something that's consistent with their beliefs, with our beliefs, that plays upon what we care about and what we value. So that's a big part of that misleading effort. But it combines all of these strategies. It plays on emotions. It plays on manipulating your thinking. So just take it into consideration that it's never just one or the other. It's usually a combination of all of these tactics. So now I want to open up the floor again and hear from you. How have you encountered mis, dis, or malinformation, and where did you find it? What was your reaction? And ultimately, did you push back, or did you report the findings, or did you engage with the bad actor that spread the mis and disinformation?
Well, I'll just start by saying I feel like I encounter it everywhere these days. I feel like it's all over social media. I see it on various channels because I tend to surf around. I'm not that loyal to one or two particular channels. I surf around and I see it quite a bit. You see it in print, in magazines and such. I just think it's very pervasive. My only way of probably ever having pushback was to try and have a conversation with somebody that I thought was, dispensing, shall we say, something that I felt was really off the wall. And I've tried it in social media, not recently, because I got tired of, you get on a merry-go-round when you do that, and everybody comes out of the woodwork, and so I didn't find that a rewarding way to counter it. Anyway, that's my answer.
Chelsey, may I make a recommendation? Could you stop the share and
Oh,
then we
yeah,
can
sure.
see each other better?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, you're welcome.
This is actually the last slide, so this is perfect timing. Okay. Any other thoughts about how you've encountered Miss and Dis? Cheryl?
Yeah, we've encountered it in doing legislative work when, like with the, sometimes people in committees or presenting to committees will present information that is biased or is incomplete, or just, it's like some of the things you're saying, it's misinformation, and it's hard to know how to respond to that and how to fight that. And so that would love some suggestions on how to address that. Things,
Absolutely.
people in government positions, government offices, and with things like fiscal notes. So.
Got it. I would say that I think from what I've encountered, what's been helpful in states like Michigan and Minnesota and Wisconsin is putting together an election observer, an observer corps membership, and using that team as a way to go into legislative body hearings and take full account of what's happening, take full analysis into making sure that folks are having are being held accountable, but then also that there's like a full report that's generated after each meeting. I know that that's been helpful in other leagues across the Midwest. And so I'm happy to share with you all too. We're having a community call on March the 27th. I'll share the details with Carol. It's all about election observation and about how we can, ramp up this body of work to be prepared for the general election.
Thank you.
I see Carol's hand up.
Yeah, yes, I got my hand up. Chelsey, could you tell us something about, don't have the last word, but the civic listening?
Yes,
I
the
find that
Civic Listening Corps. Yes, I would love to. So the Civic Listening Corps is a part of the National Conference on Citizenry. We partner with them pretty regularly when it comes to fighting mis and dis and malinformation. The Civic Listening Corps prepares folks who are interested in tracking mis and disinformation on a more consistent level with the skills necessary to track and to report the mis and disinformation, and then to also push back. So actually this afternoon, shameless plug for our elections rumors briefing. We have a Monday call every Monday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time to 4:15 p.m. that shares the landscape nationally of what's going on in the mis and disinformation space. I'm going to go ahead and share the link to that call in the chat. along with the link to join the Civic Listening Corps if you're interested. There's also training sessions that follow up this call every Monday. So if you're interested in tracking and learning how to track on a more detailed level of being aware and cognizant of what these bad actors are doing, our pilot program includes Arizona and Pennsylvania now, but we're hoping to broaden this reach as we move into the general election space. But the Civic Listening Corps is a really great opportunity to get a more hands-on in the space of miss and dis and understanding how to push back. So I'm going to go ahead and drop those links in the chat.
And can I ask a question while you're doing that? Do you have to be a league member, first of all? I know it's already started. Can you jump in and still, be able to swim with this group?
Yeah, you definitely can. You don't have to be a league member. So there is a league specific sign up for the Civic Listening Corps, just so we can count how many league members there are that are signing up, but you don't have to be a league member to do it. And you can join at any level. If you're just getting started, they will get you up to speed. My colleagues over at the Algorithmic Transparency Institute, they're very, very, very insightful and really they're informative. I kind of felt when I first jumped into the space, I felt like there was a learning curve because I don't know much about, or I'm learning more about AI now and how it functions. But it's a very welcoming space to be able to jump right in, and they'll bring you up to speed. I'm going to go ahead and drop this in the chat.
Well, I took one of the training sessions, and I understand what she's saying about a learning curve. I felt like, yeah, I'd have to learn more, but I realized I'm not that much on social media. I have my building Facebook, and they share things about how the weather is and the pets and that sort of thing. It isn't political at all, so it's not going to be very much interest. Go ahead, Wendy, with the people who have their hands raised.
I see Eleanor's hand up.
Hi, I have a question about using cell phones and scrolling, because it seems to me that the further I scroll, if I have a news story and I see a hot link and I click on it, before I know it, I've gone in to the bad actor scene. Whereas if I all of a sudden stop myself and say, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right. Who is writing that? And then I look at the caption or the title, the header, or sometimes you have to dig for it to find that the news source is really, someone you've never heard of, or then I have to look up the actual company or who produced it, the authors of. So, I try to teach my grandchildren, stop scrolling so much. Don't get into that habit of scrolling, because it's set up. There's either more money and more power, so that those that want you to look at misinformation have captured the media. We've done a study on that, right? But is that following some
Absolutely.
truth?
Yeah, I agree with you, Eleanor. And I think there's definitely been some research out there about how, eyeballs translate to likes and translate to follows, and then that translates to the dollars behind it. But when you said that about not knowing the source of the information, I think that's the most important detail to know. Like when we don't know the source information, that really throws a wrench in every other part of how we're trying to track if the information is credible or not. And so I shared a blog earlier about fact checking. I would encourage everyone to use lateral reading. I think Wendy mentioned earlier about how she's on different sites, not, you're not beholden to just one site. I would encourage everyone to read multiple news stories across different news sites, just to make sure that you're able to get a full scope of all the information and not feel like one piece of information is drowning out another. Or if you have these pieces of information where it feels like, okay, this feels like this article is screaming one point over another, like, well, that's not balanced, that's not fair. We want to think about how things are even keeled and how can there be balance across the reporting. And so lateral reading really helps with that. I also want to put in another plug for a great partner organization, the News Literacy Project. I'm going to drop their information in the chat, but they have exceptional trainings on fact checking and on knowing our news sources. If I find I'm going to look for a training that I hosted in the fall that spoke to those issues. And if I can find that that specific link, I will definitely share it with you all. But I want to share the News Literacy Project, and I also want to share the election rumors briefing before I have to jump. But I just want to say thank you for having me. And it's really great to know that there's so much interest in this space. And although, Washington isn't part of the 10 states that are part of the Democracy Truth Project, I think that this work speaks more to the overall goals of the project, which is to make sure that everyone has access to mis and disinformation resources and how we can get plugged in. So I'm looking forward to staying connected. And thank you again, Carol, for the invitation.
And thank you, Chelsey. This is great. We've really appreciated your time this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm going to drop those links in the chat, and then I'll let you all continue on. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Okay,
So,
well, yeah, well, go ahead.
say that again, Carol. I didn't hear you.
I was just saying, I do have something that I'd like to share. I've actually got two things, and it kind of depends on where we want to go with this.
Right.
So let me see. May I screen share?
By all means.
Let's see if I can find it now. It's here. Let's see, share. You're going to see more than you want to see here for a second while my mouse helps me move things around. Or did I lose it? Oh, it was here a second ago. I'm going to have to find it now. Sorry, I had it and then I lost it because I tried to do something else. Got too clever with myself here. Is it screen sharing? Yeah, it says I am.
Yes.
Okay, so I think it was 2017, I started, I don't know, I just happened on this site somehow, and maybe somebody else has seen this, and it's grown considerably since the time that I looked at it in 2017. It was free, it was very low key. This is definitely a business, and there are all kinds of rules set up around it. But it's called Ad Fontes, which means at the source, because she mentioned it just briefly, Chelsey did. You need to find the source, where things come from, and then you can begin to understand, whether you want to trust that source or not. So this is a grid that, as you can see, that has, actually it has two directions. There's the conveniently placed left and right portions. And these are all kinds of different media sources. There's tons of them there. You just can't see them all. But it also goes on another grid, the downside, starting with a score of 64, original fact reporting, high effort. And you see this green line right here? this is kind of what's going to draw the line between what is truth or fact reporting. Let me call it fact reporting, and opinion. I think this is more analysis opinion. It does say opinion down here. Then there's incomplete story, unfair persuasion, propaganda, contains misleading information, and fabricated information. I love that one. And look where Alex Jones is over here in the corner. Does that give, when I first saw this grid, Alex Jones was actually off the chart as far as not being truthful and being so far over to the right that he was literally off the chart. They put him back on the chart. But I also learned they have a way, if you look farther on this site, you see that they have ways to, they explain how they decide where to put the sources. And could somebody just call out a source to me, and we'll see where it fits, or maybe I'll just pick one that I use a lot. We'll see if maybe it isn't something. How about PBS? Let's see if this will work. Okay, oh, I just clicked on it. PBS, no, that's Up First. Okay, I listened to Up First. It's a podcast. Its reliability is in the mix of fact reporting and analysis. And it's a bias of 9. I don't quite understand. Oh, it's just over the line. It's going to be skews left.
I put the link to this chart that Carol is viewing in the chat if anybody wants to look at it themselves, and you can see things maybe a little better on your screen.
Anything that somebody else might want to search for and we can see.
Carol, can I also jump in with a question about it?
Sure.
Since you discovered this such a long time ago, I think you said 2017, do you have an idea of who decided where these guys fall on this graph? Like,
okay, that's what they explained. I can't explain it, but I'm on this interactive page right now. If I went to their home page, I'm afraid to go there. I'm not really, but I'm afraid if I change the channel here. Yeah, I did. Let me go back. I'm not Cindy. I can't do everything. I can't do all that stuff. It is somebody's opinion, but they show you how they come up with it. Now, you have to keep that in mind. It's somebody's opinion, but the way it's helped me is if I get something from a source that I'm not familiar with, I can go here and I can put in 5 each day, different sources, and I don't have to subscribe. I don't get all of their information, but I don't need it. What I really need is just where does it fit on this truth versus fiction and left and right. Then that's the advantage of this for me. Now, maybe it won't work for you, but it does. Nancy, you have a question? Nancy?
Yes, sorry, I had to unmute.
Okay.
I do. Would you mind just clicking on a few of the major news sources like Fox, MSNBC? You already showed us PBS.
Okay.
I'm just curious where those are falling.
Fox News was really interesting because they were all over the place. If I could get it. Oh, shoot. It went. Oh, I put it in the wrong search. Oh, I am so clever. I'm glad I don't do this.
Okay.
I had it in the wrong one. See where I had it? I know it has a place for Fox News because I looked at it yesterday.
To the left, Carol, is the search.
Yeah.
You see over there? Yeah.
Yeah, I found it. I knew I did it yesterday. They have a ton of, you have to be more specific. So I'm going to put in Fox Business because that was interesting. I think it's the one, if I remember. But there, when we came up with no data, okay, they don't like that. Just do Fox News.
Yeah, the drop down, you can click on the drop down.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mhm.
Now I'm not, see, there's too many Fox and Friends, okay? I recognize that. I don't watch much Fox, but you see all these little yellow dots in here. So this is Fox and Friends. It's reliability is 30 something on, 30 on this scale. It's mostly opinion. And I am not going to upgrade to view their audience size. And the bias is 21. So it's farther left than something it's not as close to the middle. But these other points,
It's to the left?
It's to the right.
excuse me. Yeah, you're right. It's right. You're right, Fox. Okay. That always
That was gonna be news to me.
that right here. I thought of that. Okay, so it's over on this side. But this just gives you an idea of media bias, and it's you'd have to find the homepage and read their how they do this. They have a left-leaning, right-leaning, a centrist, and they all look at the same piece of information, and together they decide where it belongs.
Could you show us MSNBC?
Yeah, maybe. I'm so skilled at this. Let's see. It's capitals. NBC. It's kind of like ABC. Ah, see?
MS.
All right.
There you go.
Okay, and let's see, TV network. Do you want to see again? It's a whole bunch of things. Should we just go with the TV network and see what happens?
Sure.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so MSNBC, the TV network, its reliability is 31. So MSNBC is mainly opinion or wide variation in reliability, and its bias is 16. It's minus 16.67. I mean, it goes 16 points over to the left. So MSN, but let's take a look at now how do I get back to CNN?
Yeah, good.
I don't want that. I don't have television. So I am not maybe, the really not CBS, but let's see what CNN is. So as you see from all these little dots, CNN is a whole bunch of things because there's lots of different programs, but the website is reliability of 42, which means it's a mix of fact reporting, analysis, and simple fact reporting. And its bias is only 6.60. So it's 6 points over towards the left. But different parts of it are going to be very, different than that. They're going to be more reliable. Let's see if it'll come back. CBS, this one I thought was interesting, and I may be running out of things. I may be hit my 5 things, but yeah, that might have happened. CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell was way up on the top, and I didn't have a chance, and I won't till tomorrow, to check out Associated Press and Reuters, because when I started looking at this, those two news sources were up in the green truth area, and they were right about in the middle. So I always think if it comes from Associated Press or Reuters, it's probably really very reliable information. And Nancy, you had another question?
Yes, I do. Does this website also rate publications like New York Times and Washington Post and those things?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, that's
So you can.
thank you. Yeah, that's very interesting.
I'm going to stop the share on this because we really didn't. We ended up with a little different program than we meant to have today. And I felt some things were not really covered. And I'm going to see if I can't find the Fixed Democracy First program. And because Ken might remember that. Ken, were you there for that Fixed Democracy First?
Which one are we talking about?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's every week. Okay. The one that was with Demario Phipps Smith, and it was back in November. I think it was like November 13th or something. And it was a very excellent program on news, opinion, propaganda, and it was really basic information that I think we could have used here. So
I probably was, but I have trouble remembering what I have for breakfast unless I look at my tie. So those things kind of fade in. But I did want to mention there's a resource, you may have discussed it already. I missed part of this meeting, but it's called Straight Arrow News. I don't know if anybody's heard of that. They have a very interesting feature they call Media Miss, and they take any story that's in the news and they look at how many times it's covered by left-wing media and right-wing media, and it's pretty dramatic, some of the stuff that gets left out of either the left or the right media coverage. And then you can click on that website, you can click on each of those media that they list and see the coverage of that particular story from the different perspectives. So it's a really interesting news source. And also when they do just cover news and they just do it straight, there's no talking heads or anything. Most of their stories are pretty short and pretty factual, I believe. So I'd encourage people to take a look at that Straight Arrow News. I put a link to it in the chat.
Great. Marilyn, did you have a question?
Oh, let me be sure. Am I unmuted? I just had a question for Carol. Do they have anything about news that's British Broadcasting, so BBC, on that site?
I'm not
Because
sure.
I find it interesting to have a perspective from another country.
Agreed.
There are a lot of sources listed there. They're kind of all stacked on top of each other there, so you couldn't really see them. But the idea is there's media bias, and we need to be kind of aware of it. It just gives you a suggestion about where your source might be, and just take that into consideration.
Carol, I was glad you mentioned AP and Reuters as being kind of up at the tip top. It's about a year, probably a little more. I did a little bit of this kind of research for myself because it's a fire hose of information all the time. And I was trying to find a reputable way of getting to the point, finding information quickly that I could sort of rely on. And I just went ahead and put both of those apps on my iPhone desktop. So, and it's been really, it's been really helpful because I can hear something that sounds a little wacky on the news or somewhere, and I can pop one of those two open and see what they say about it. And I agree, they've been quite consistent. I mean, if you track them over time, their accuracy is very good.
So that's how it helped me too, is to know that there's some place that I can go. Nancy has one more question. Wendy, I'm sorry, I'm seeing this. I don't know.
No, it's fine.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to mention about Cindy Black's Fixed Democracy First website. I believe all her previous programs are recorded, and you can look at anyone that you want to there. Because she's been going, I don't know how long she's been doing this, but I've kind of followed her for the last year and a half or so.
It's been about 4 years.
Okay.
Yes, I put the link that Carol was talking about with Demario in the chat, the program for that. It's in the chat. As well as the link to that website that Carol was showing on the screen. You can open it up for yourself and then do your own searches. Like she said, you can do 5 searches, and you can also look at their fixed map. And if you can blow it up on your screen, maybe a little bigger than we could show you on our screens.
I have one more thing I'd like to share. But I have to get back to screen share, because I'm going to include these in the edition that I send out for with the video in it. And now let's see. Do you mind? And I'll show you what they are so that you know what I'm talking about. If I can do it again. I'm sorry, I'm just not the when I was kind of doing research for this, I found a site it's called Crash Course in Navigating Digital Information. And the guy's name is Mark Green. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun if we could have Mark Green come talk to us? Then I learned he's at Stanford and he's an author. He's written lots and lots of books. He wasn't going to come bother with us. But anyway, these little information things are about 13 minutes long, and there are going to be 2 of them. The first one is just about online information, and it kind of gives some of the same things that DeMario did in that Fixed Democracy First way back in November. And then the other one is going to be fact checking, and that's where you learn about lateral reading and checking sources. And I found that one, to me, that was really very interesting, and they're short and they are peppy. And I'll include them, and then you'll have them if you care to view them. So, and I'll stop share. And I'm gonna get the tape out now, Wendy, and put it on. I'm sorry.
Say that again, Carol. Sorry.
I'm getting the tape out and I'm gonna put it on.
Oh, no worries. I was going to also mention, though, that Chelsey mentioned the News Literacy Project when she was talking this morning, and I actually went and looked at their website the other day, and I found and didn't scratch the surface very far, but I actually watched a couple of their podcasts and videos on this very topic of news literacy and trying to figure out what's true and what isn't, what's accurate and what's not. So I recommend, I think they have a nice website, the News Literacy Project. They have a lot of tools out there, a lot of tips for how to wade through all of this information that's coming at us and have a chance to figure out what's real and what isn't.
And I need a tip right now on how do you save chat? I can't remember. It's got to be
You go into your chat window itself, just open chat, and there's going to be 3 dots.
Okay.
Mine are on the upper right-hand corner where it says more, and then you can save chat.
Thank you. I knew it had to do with 3 dots. I just didn't know where the 3 dots were.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good reminder for everyone. There's a lot of good links in the chat, including the blog post that Chelsey mentioned about fighting mis and disinformation. And oh no, that was the other one she mentioned. There has been some other blog posts out there too on the League's website, US website.
So we hope you all come back.
Absolutely. Yeah. One more left. So we hope so.
One, just learning the protocols. It's just amazing. The things that they do to keep our elections not only secure, but be sure that they are accurate. And it's information we need so that we can talk to our friends and our neighbors and our family. For some of us, some of our family need to know these things. And so that we are knowledgeable about how elections are kept secure.
Right. So we have just a minute or so left. Any famous last words, anybody?
I occasionally dabble in writing songs, and I'm working on one called Breaking News Blues. Because, man, everything is breaking news, and it's just like it's pounding you down, starting to feel good, boom, breaking news. And it's worse than you thought, So anyway, if I ever get that done,
you can do a premiere performance on ACTviaZoom, okay, Ken?
Okay, yeah. We got to have some fun with this mess.
Right. Yeah. Have to be able to laugh over it. Well, thank you, everybody, once again. Hope to see you next week.
Thank you guys for putting this on.
Bye.
You bet.
Thank you.
Bye.